Talking Klitschko versus Bryant Jennings today. Firstly, let me just say I did a video yesterday in case anyone missed it. I'm launching a weekly newsletter with channel updates, you know, what to expect, what videos are in the pipeline, what's coming in the next week, and just a general sort of update and boxing gossip newsletter. If you'd like to be included on that, please comment below with your email address or drop me a line at boxinggossip@gmail.com and I'll include you in the list. I had a few responses overnight, which is always positive, and I will get that up and running from next week. Now to the matter in hand, Bryant Jennings versus Vladimir Klitschko. Let's talk about this fight. Let's start with Wladamir Klitschko. One would suggest he's in the autumn of his career given his age, but based on recent performances, it's very hard to say he's in the autumn of his career. I think the Vladimir that we're looking at now is close to peak Vladimir. I mean, let's be honest, the level of competition he's been in with lately possibly represents some of the highest competition he's faced in his career. The likes of Pulev, Alexander Povetkin. I mean, the guys look devastating. When was the last time you saw Vladimir Klitschko lose a round? You know, he's absolutely knocking out opponents like Pulev, dropping Alexander Povetkin multiple times, you know, destroying lesser opponents like Leopai. This is a guy who is completely dominant. This is a guy who has developed his style to a point where even though it may not be pretty at times, it is so effective for him. He's got the best jab in pro boxing. Pound for pound, he's one of the hardest punchers in pro boxing. He's got one of the best 1-2 combinations in pro boxing. His lead left hook is arguably the best in pro boxing. What are his weaknesses? Well, his main weakness is that he's got no inside game. He's also got no ability to punch to the body. But in many ways, he negates that by his tactics of holding and leaning inside. Effectively, Wladimir Klitschko is a fighter who has developed a method of closing down an opponent on the inside and forcing them to fight to his terms. It's not pretty, it pisses off a lot of boxing fans. People hate the performance he put in against Povetkin. But let's forget about that, and we have to admire that this is effective boxing and fighting and scrapping from Wladimir Klitschko. How do you beat Vladimir Klitschko? I've said this before, I'll say it again. For me, there's three obvious ways of beating him. Firstly, as I say, Vladimir likes to fight on the outside. He's very reliant on distance and range. What about if he fought a bigger man with a good outside game? You know, someone like Tyson Fury with excellent range, whose jab may be able to be thrown from further away than Klitschko's. That's interesting. What about if he fought a genuine world-class power puncher who can change the game with a single second? Someone like Deontay Wilder, that's interesting. Or what about if he fought a guy who was educated and relentless in terms of their approach of getting inside? Not a guy like Povetkin, who adopted Route 1 tactics and showed limited versatility, but a guy like a peak Mike Tyson, who just would not take no for an answer when it comes to getting on the inside. Now, I appreciate that fighter doesn't exist in the heavyweight division right now, but what I'm getting at is, for me, those are the three types of guys who I'd class as live underdogs against Wladimir Klitschko. The really big men, the really powerful men, and the really skilled inside fighters. Put simply, Pulev, he's a very good fighter. In my eyes, and my pre-fight video is still up, so check it out if you don't believe me, but I said there is no way he could beat Wladimir Klitschko. Because what does Pulev do? You know, he's a jabber who stays on the outside, he's got no power, he's got no inside game, and he's going to sit there and jab with a bigger man who's got a better jab. You know, it was a disaster waiting to happen. Now let's look at Bryant Jennings. Let's discuss what he brings to the table. The guy's an athlete, clearly. The guy can move, clearly. You know, the guy has some attributes. He's got an okay resume. He's beaten Mike Perez, who I think is very good. He's beaten Arthur Spilka, who is pretty good. He deserves to be a top 10 heavyweight, he really does. But Bryant Jennings has limitations in my eyes. For a start, he's small. I know he's got oversized roots, but Vladimir's a much bigger man, a much bigger frame, a much heavier man. You know, the difference between these guys is going to be substantial when they get in the ring. I think Bryant Jennings also lacks world-class power. I think he lacks the ability to take an opponent's game away from him with a single shot. You know, he just doesn't have that sort of game-changing power that the likes of a Deontay Wilder or a David Haye has. And I think David Haye's a relevant example, because I could see this fight going similar to how Haye Klitschko went. I could see Jennings dancing around the outside, trying to stay out of range, trying to explode on the inside. But I just don't think he's got the power, and more importantly, I don't think he's got the boxing pedigree to have effect against Vladimir Klitschko. You know, this is a guy, I know Jennings has got good endurance, good stamina, good conditioning, and he came on strong against Perez. You know, he fought all 12 rounds, he outworked Perez, he was fitter than Perez. But this is a guy who got completely outboxed by Mike Perez. You know, Vladimir Klitschko is an Olympic gold medalist. He's an elite, dominant, pound-for-pound boxer. He's got superb athleticism, superb jab. For me, Bryant Jennings is going to get soundly outboxed when this fight starts. And what's he going to do in response? I mean, is he going to break Vladimir down on the inside? No. Is he going to knock him out with one shot? No. Is he going to be able to out-jab and out-box Vladimir Klitschko from the outside? No. Does he have the size to kind of lean and bully Vladimir Klitschko? No. I mean, what is this guy going to do to beat Vladimir Klitschko? He may be able to dance around him. He may be able to look more attractive. You know, he may be able to look like an elite runner and an elite mover. But how is he going to land effective offence? You know, to steal rounds or to knock Vladimir Klitschko out? For me, his power is too limited. His boxing capability is too limited. This is a guy who came to the game late. This is a guy with a limited amateur pedigree. I mean, that was really evident in the Mike Perez fight. And I think if you're getting out-jabbed and outworked early on by Mike Perez, what are you going to do against Vladimir Klitschko? I think the difference between Perez and Klitschko is threefold. Firstly, it's size. Secondly, it's power. And thirdly, it's conditioning. You know, Klitschko is a different animal to Perez in all of those facets at present. And I just do not see how Jennings scores the win. You know, realistically, I've heard people on forums saying Jennings got the style to knock Klitschko out. But Jennings, to my eye, is half the fighter David Haye is. You know, I know people say Haye's overrated, but I don't see anything that Bryant Jennings does better than David Haye. And I don't see Jennings having the offensive weapons of an Alexander Povetkin. Look how both those guys fared against Vladimir Klitschko. Yeah, for me to beat Vladimir Klitschko right now, yeah, you may get a lucky punch or something like that, but to actually go out there and outpoint him, which is what I think Bryant Jennings needs, given his lack of power, you're going to have to be a top 5 all-time great heavyweight. I think the modern Klitschko is that good. And I don't rate Bryant Jennings that highly. I find it hard to really consider him a top 5 heavyweight in the current division, based on skill set, based on attributes, based on resume, let alone an all-time great, which I think you need to be to outpoint the modern Vlad. Let me know your thoughts. I'm keen to discuss. Realistically, I'm expecting a dominant win from Vladimir Klitschko. My best guess is there's a knockout, but we shall see. It's possible that Jennings can use his athleticism and conditioning to dance around, stay on the outside and limit the punishment. I don't think he'll be the same sort of walking punch bag that Povetkin was, but I think he's going to be vulnerable, and I cannot see him having effect against Vladimir Klitschko. I'm predicting a knockout or, you know, 10-2, 11-1, something like that on points. Let me know your thoughts. I'm keen as always to discuss. Thanks for watching.